This program is brought to you in part by SalCal Real Estate Connections. Welcome to Race in Action Today. We're here today to bring you the action from a very special place here in Plainville, Connecticut at their historic center here in the middle of town. And the event today is a kickoff to their summer exhibit, which will feature a very special place known as Plainville Stadium. And as an added feature, we'll be talking to some of the icons of racing, I like to call them, who called their home at that Plainville Stadium racetrack. And I'm sure you're going to find it very interesting. I think you better sit back and relax as we see what Plainville Stadium was all about and the people who made it happen. Yes, we have Nancy Eberhardt with us, who is the president of the Plainville Historic Society. And I have to tell you, Nancy, this exhibit is just beautiful. I have to commend everybody involved. It's just a beautiful thing. And I'd like you to let people know what this is about and when they could actually come and see this event.
It's about the Plainville Stadium. Basically, the vast majority of this display deals with the racing that took place there. And we have memorabilia and pictures from several of the drivers at the stadium. Don Delena, Don Moon, Dave Elkis, Jim Nadeau, a number of them. We're open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from noon to 2:30. We will be closed July 4th and July 8th. That's considered a holiday weekend, but we'll be open all summer long. The last time you can see it is August 29th. Along with the model that you have here of the stadium that was done by Ron Carlson, who also gave us some other materials, we have 5 books over there that have about, I would guess, 200 different drivers that our Vice President Rose Stanley has put together, pictures and information about different drivers. So if anybody has some more information about a driver we don't have, we'd love it.
All right, now the hours that they could come here are?
Noon to 2:30 on Wednesdays and Saturdays. If there's somebody who wants to bring a group, they can call the office here at 860-747-6577, and we'll make arrangements.
Well, we certainly want to thank you for all the work that went into this exhibit, and I'll tell you, it just brought back so many memories.
That's what we're hoping for.
And it's like coming home.
That's it.
Well, I want to thank you. You've been excellent, and we're looking forward to having a little discussion now with some of the people that made this happen.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, good evening. I'd like to introduce some people to you that had an impact at Plainville Stadium. These racing icons really are something special when it comes to the history about what went on at that historic racetrack. And the first person I'm going to mention is Jap Membrino, Tony. Of course, we know him as Jap. We have Fred Elkis. We know Fred's famous brother Dave, who was a 5-time champion at Plainville Stadium. We have Don Moon. We have Roland Sear. We have Don Spazzano. We have Ron Carlson. And we have Reggie Ruggiero. And believe me, this table is full of talent as far as racing goes, beyond belief. And I think we're going to start the conversation with maybe the most controversial driver that I know at Plainville, who was booed and cheered as much as anybody I know. And Jap, yeah. I'm sure you got some fond memories.
You don't have to ask who it is. I will start with, like Reggie said, I got the name Jap because we lived on a little farm, and I used to hide in a tree and underneath the stove, so my father called me Jap. That was it. Yeah.
So that's how you got your name.
That one, yeah. Then I started racing back in the 50s, all right? how I did that was where I was working, the guy down the street built a race car. That's when we flat towed and everything, you know. So he said to me, "You want to come with me? We start the car up when we're coming up the mountain and everything, you know, push me up over the hill." So we did it. Went to the track, went to Plainville. It was back in the 50s. And so after the race and everything, I'm in the car, started up. He says, I pushed him up over the freaking hill pretty fast. So, so he says, "Yeah, that was pretty good," he says, you know. So after that, I went to Plainville, and my brother Danny went out with a car. And he got out there, went a couple rounds of the track, a couple times around the track. And he said, "No, this ain't for me." He stopped the car right there on the track, left it there. So I went out, I got in the car. So I went in, I was in the heat, so I went out. I don't know where the hell I started, but I started. But I won the heat, that's it. That's how I started my racing. I've been doing it ever since.
How long, so you're talking about 1950s.
1950.
Wow. So you were into
Don't
this.
say it.
You were into this thing for a long time.
Yeah, long time. These guys were all babies then.
Now, I have to say too that I got to know some of your sons, and the heritage is going on.
Yeah.
Your
oh,
grandsons
yeah.
are racing.
Yeah, I got my grandsons are doing real good. Yep.
Uncle Marty kind of
Marty,
takes
yeah.
care of the cars.
Chief
and,
mechanic, the chief
Yeah,
setup man.
yeah. Of course, he's my shooting partner, but I won't get into that.
Yeah. No, don't say nothing wrong.
Now, how did Plainville Stadium impact your career? I mean,
Well, because, you know, it was close by. And, well, that was West Haven, too. You know, see, I went from Plainville back to West Haven. Then from West Haven to Plainville, from Plainville to Riverside, all over the place. But Plainville was so easy for us to come down. And we went over there. So, actually, what really turned me on was Boone Burgess when he was driving that, the Flying Jimmy. Okay? When he was driving that thing, he used to rock the stands. Unbelievable. And that's what really got me going with racing. When I saw him, he was good. Good friend of mine.
yeah, the history with him was something special,
Oh,
I'll tell you.
yeah. Boone was a good man.
But don't let nobody kid you. You got quite a history yourself there.
Yeah, this guy down the end over there, when he was driving the street stocks, okay? I was out there. He would walk up in the back of me and he'd give me the corner of his eye. He wouldn't come too close though. Because we were in the back crew. We were in the back crew. He wouldn't come near us.
You had to have a hammer to walk by him.
That's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
hunting partner. Though. Hey, that's my hunting partner. We
Oh,
go
I-
hunting.
I know. You,
Yeah.
Plainville, you had to know how to fight too, right?
You don't have to bring that up. We were just talking about that the other day. How one of my buddies got his head split open up in the thing, and then I got handcuffed to the fence. Yeah. Then poor John Spader, the same thing. God bless his soul. They split his head open too.
Oh my dear.
John Spader was a good man.
Yeah, you had to be a tough person.
Yeah.
Well, see, the funny part is everybody thought that back in the day, everybody run the big bolts going down through for the stacking.
Yeah.
It wasn't for that. It's so you can carry a big adjustable so you can hit him in the head when they come next to you. That's all.
Oh my dear.
You know,
But
that's,
you know the surprising thing though about this.
Seeing that you mentioned them stacking bolts, I was playing we were just coming off the second turn, and this green car was down in front of me. He took a flipped over, come out of the back window, was underneath the car, the stacking bolt right through his head.
Wow, my dear.
That was a long time ago.
Really?
That shook me up a little bit. Yeah, that was good. Nobody remembered that one, huh? Yeah.
No.
That's why he said it was
We're too young.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
What
It
year
had
was
to be in
that?
the 50s again.
What year?
You know, I think, it was about 52, 53, I think it was. I don't say that, Roland.
Well, I was
Shaking his
10.
head over there.
I was 10.
Yeah.
What's he, 52? I was 2 years
Yeah,
old.
you guys are making me an old man over
You
here.
are. You're old as dirt.
Jeff, we didn't make it. You did it, not us.
Oh. No, but that shook me up quite a bit.
I imagine that would.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk to Fred here a little bit about Plainville, and I'm sure you got a few words to say how older brother must have influenced you a little bit when it comes to racing.
Oh, God, yeah. You know, when back in the day, I can remember. I mean, I was a little squirt when he started racing. I still am, but you know, a little squirt, and I used to idolize watching him go out there. And one of the other, matter of fact, he was driving the novices back then, and then the modifieds was Lou Carangelo. I don't know if you remember him. And I used to love watching that guy run that coupe, and it ended up we'd had like a little hay barn, you know, that we had for a garage for the car and all, and you know, I can remember when Mo Guernsey used to have the seals they used to put on the engines, and he had to come down and seal it. We wouldn't even come inside the garage, but getting back to, you know, respecting him and all. Watching him run just kept influencing me, and then I had to go in the Army. Once I came out of the Army, I made myself a promise. I says, I'm going to go back over there, start racing. I says, I'm going to try it. Well, it ended up that in '72, I got married, and I was working at Mobile Truck Service, helping them out, you know, working at night. And I decided to build a car, so I bought a frame and whole 9 yards and started working on it down there. And we had the car done, so I had to cut my honeymoon short to come back, and I had my brother George bring the car to the track, went over there with the car, and you know, ever since then, I kept trying to beat him, and it was like a little guideline thing for me to do, is that I figured if I can beat him, I'm beating one of the best, so that's what I kept trying to do. And I only beat him a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was that?
He was a tough one.
When he
When he
broke,
wrecked.
when he broke down, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
When he broke down.
They got put in a wall.
No, we had a good relationship.
When I
Our
unloaded
brothers were all running together. At one
Yeah.
time, we had 4 of us
Yeah,
running together.
That's right. I remember.
Not running, but one, Edward was a mechanic.
Yeah. Edward had a car, and
Oh yeah.
actually that brings me to when you started racing, Dave. You started in this novice class.
Oh yeah.
You were building cars with Edward, and you know.
We actually, when we first started out, Ronnie Wyckoff had just come up from Hialeah, Florida, and he was working for South Street Garage over there, and he built an old '50 Ford M2,
Had Johnny run the
wheels
key.
cocked out in the right front and everything, and he used to come over to the farm across the street from us, and I got to know him, and he started driving for us. He was driving the '87 there, and we had the '89. Those are both novice cars. And through the years, we watched all the younger guys. Reg there come up through, did an excellent job. And a lot of the fellas that came up through went on to better racing at NASCAR up through Riverside and at Stafford, and done very well. We had Stosh, Stan Greger, the rest of them did a very good job, and got to compliment them, you know, what they've done. And myself the same way. We were just a farmer. Started out on the farm over there. The first car we had was a Haymaker Special, and we had a limited budget. And back then we worked together, and we went to the junkyard and built, as Don always says, junkyard was our best friend. And back then you didn't pull your wallet out. You had to use your ingenuity, and it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears doing the stuff. But you enjoy it. We really, and when we raced Plainville, we ran with a lot of the best fellas out there. They would come down on open shows. I think Reggie remember that as much as anybody, and Don and a lot of them. And we had to compete against a lot of the fellas from Upper Riverside. And those open shows, we didn't give up too many of them. Most of the locals down there were dialed in, and we set fast time, and we ran. Japper knew that. We were all there. And Sparky Belmont, a lot of the old timers, and we put on a good show down there.
I
And,
want to ask you one question though. Did running through the cornfields help you at all on the racetrack?
no, not unless you made a mistake and the corn cob went the wrong way. But other than that, we.
Because I can remember some instances running down through the cornfields down
Oh
there.
yeah, we had Ronnie, you know, that's our test. We used to test them out down there, and
Used to tear out a lot of fence for that.
We have more memories that I can't mention here, but I mean, working on them down there, I remember times that we'd work out in the old barn. We didn't even have torches. We were cutting the inside and gutting out the door panels with a big chisel and a 2-pound hammer, and your hands were numb, and when you went to wash up and clean up to go down Berlin Turnpike to pick up a couple of cheeseburgers at night, you finally found out your hands were all cut up and all. But we had a good time, and we worked on it, and everybody had a good time. Can't say that we any of the stuff I turned the clock back on any of it. It really was good.
Yes, it was a special time, actually, growing up. It was a good time. It was a lot different today, you know, than it was back then.
We picked a few shows out. You know, we ran when Jap was more or less the fellows that we had to beat out there, because he was number one. And like Fred said, my brother here said, when we first went up there, we had Lou Carangelo, you had Lou Taro, and that little Coopson, and then we got into Harry Bliss, the V8 there, a lot of good guys. The Silver Six there, you know, with the loud pipe down the side, you know, the big Jimmy engine in it. Then we got Don Moon and all the rest of the fellas there. They were all there, every one was, and it was hard competition. I think the modifieds weren't as hard as the novice class when we had novices there. I mean, I remember times there was 42 cars in the novice class.
Those were the best times of our lives.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, and it was hard. If you finished second or third there, you might have said you won a race. But we had some good memories there. Never forget them.
Absolutely. Now we're going to talk to Mr. Moon about Plainville Stadium and his adventures.
Well, I have a lot of things to say about Plainville Stadium. I started a little different than these guys did. I was a young kid. I built everything myself with a hammer and chisel and built a car. And my parents wouldn't sign my paperwork for Plainville Stadium because I was only 15 and a half years old. So I folded it over and my Aunt Dolly signed it, and I went to the races. I took my uncles, I put a hitch on the car and towed the car behind. I said, if you don't drive it, I will. I didn't have a license. We went to the track, and they were the best pit crew I ever had.
I remember.
And I ran against Max Cavallo, and he was the track champ the year before, and I run up against him. We're wheel to wheel, and my aunt's tires I took off for Buick was Uniroyals, which were never no good all my life, and they were starting to go flat, and I lost the race by a ½ inch. And that's when my racing career started. I started building cars, running novice, and then we went into modified, and we ran pretty good. We got a few shows. We got a show here, a show there, and I always wanted to make the car go better and better and make it look better. I did a lot of front end work. I went to work for Art's Frame Shop. He taught me a lot about front ends, and caster and camber, and I always made the car handle good and do the best I could, and scrape and borrow whatever I could steal to make that car go. And we had a lot of results, and we were running good one year, and I came out the first year with the car. We won a feature, and then we came back out again. I broke my arm at the garage, and my father says, you better not let that car sit there. You better put something in it. So I put Reggie LaJury in it. And he did a real good job for me. He bent all four wheels the first night because I had to get used to that car. It was pretty quick. And he brought me 10 features home. We had a lot of ups and downs and arguments and stuff, but we got through. We had a good career.
You remember that, Reg?
Oh yeah, that was some good times back then. I was without a ride. I had drove my own car for a couple of years, and then it just got to be too much expense-wise. And actually, why we won all those races was Don was the only guy who would put tires in the car, basically. I mean, he would put like 2 or 3 tires on a night. And back then, nobody put tires in the car, basically.
Yeah,
So,
that was the secret.
The car ran good, and we won races.
Yeah, that was a special time. And Roland, you had a little bit to do with Mr. Alcas's success.
Yeah,
And you started out as a driver.
right. I built an old coupe, and I ran it for 3 years. And I did all right with it. And then when my son was born, that's when I offered Davey the ride, because I was get a little static at home, you gotta worry about your son. So. And that's when we started together, and every time we needed something, I'd go out and beg, borrow, or steal and get it in the car so to make it get around.
Yeah, it's amazing. Back then, the junkyard just was the place to go, you know.
Oh yeah.
And
John Ferroni used to help us out a lot. You go down and see John, tell him what you
Papa John.
needed, and he'd say, "All right, here's, you know, I need this or I need that. How about a big truckload of old scrap steel? Oh, we bring that down. We'll work a deal out."
Yeah, it was a different time.
Oh, yeah.
You know. And I have to say, you really did well at these open shows that they used to have. Somehow you used to draw the #1 slot all the time.
I was really
heard
lucky
stories
that
about
way.
that.
Mo Gersey used to get all ticked off at me. I'd be the first one in line. He'd hold a bucket up so I had to step on something.
I'd be the
Stick my
last
arm
one.
down and I'd hand it to him. And I wouldn't even look. I'd walk away. #1 again. So, we pulled a lot of poles on the open shows.
Yeah, that, I
Lady
remember.
luck.
You never know
Yeah.
what luck fate will do for you, you know. Now, Don, I remember a black car that used to have a $ sign on it.
Yeah.
Was that your...
Originally, I bought that car from Maxie Cavallo.
That's
He
right.
got hurt pretty bad one night at Plainville. And I was racing before that, but that was the top running car when I bought it. I just had to keep it going, that's all. Maxie was a good kid. I got into it because I was on a pit crew for Bobby Black back when he first started at West Haven. And Tattersall back then was running Plainville. Tattersall was just giving it up. Mo Guernsey was taking it over. They were going to run the novices. That was about the only thing you could afford back then if you wanted to begin. So we tried it, and Mo did a good job. In the beginning, he had a hard time. Everybody was giving him grief. But once he got that thing underway, it was a lot of fun. The only thing is, Plainville didn't have the reputation that Stafford, Thompson, and all that had. You had your big drivers up there, Bugsy and all them. They didn't get their lesson until Reggie went up there and taught them how. But we had fun. We had a lot of fun back then.
Yeah, racing at Plainville, to me, really looked like it opened the door for a lot of
A
people.
lot of people, a lot of guys began
You know,
down there.
Because it was affordable to do.
Well, not only that, God forbid something happened to your car at that track, there's nobody that you couldn't go up to. They'd give you a transmission, they give you a wheel, no matter what you needed. And not only that, 4 or 5 would be over there helping you work on that car.
Oh yeah, it was.
That's the way it was back
It was
then.
a great.
And after the races, there was a party out in that parking lot that lasted 5-6 hours. I mean, there wasn't, you know, there was always fights and everything every now and then, but, you know, once Shep went home, we were fine. I'm sorry. You're still here. I thought you left.
Half of the cars in the parking lot had no motors in them too.
Oh,
Took everything out.
Oh, yeah. That's where we used to get our parts.
Oh.
You burnt a coil or something on your car. you
Distributor
go out
or
the parking lot,
something, that
take
was
one
it.
off a car.
Oh,
One guy
yeah.
one night lost his transmission. They took it off while he was in the stands. They knew somebody needed a transmission.
Oh,
It was fun
dear.
back then.
Yeah, the things that went on in the early days, and you know, I was talking to Skip one day. He was telling me the story about flat towing, Skip Ziegler, and he said they had wrecked the car during the event, and they didn't know how they were, you know, going to flat tow it home. Flat towing meant you used the tow bar and all the wheels on the car itself.
Yep.
And he said he went home and got a refrigerator dolly and stuck it under the right front of the car, and that's how he got the car home. Towing it on a refrigerator dolly.
Always
All the
a
way to
Thomaston.
Thomaston, yeah.
I believe it. I used to drive for Skip, so I know him. You know, we're good friends.
Yeah, he was, he raced at Plainville many years too,
Yeah.
you know. And he was quite a colorful character.
Before I quit, that was the last car I drove. I was driving for Skip and Eddie Hamill. They were partners.
Now,
Before I retired.
I'm not really sure. When did Plainville really start racing? When did it really start there?
Jap could tell us that.
It's gotta be
47,
Jeff, because
wasn't it? 47.
that track originally was midget.
47.
47.
It was dirt.
Oh, it was dirt.
Yeah, it was
47.
dirt
Cinders,
and
right?
midgets, right?
Cinder.
Right, Rich?
It was cinders. They ran motorcycles, then they ran stock cars.
Yeah, it was dirt.
Didn't Eddie Funky's brother drive midgets there?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
George.
Oh, yeah.
George.
George
Yeah.
Funky
He was
did,
a
yeah.
big midget driver.
So
Then
then it converted to asphalt at some
Yeah.
point.
yeah, they ran one race.
They only
after
ran a
motorcycle,
few-
but race
little bit.
cars. They said the stuff was flying so bad that people in the stands couldn't
Yeah,
stand
they-
it.
well, it wasn't that, the people
So
in the
they-
neighborhood.
Well, it was also a motorcycle track too. when it was
Yeah, but
dirt.
they stopped it quick.
kind of
They didn't
cinders
have
was
too
it?
much of it.
What kind of cinders was it?
The, pardon?
The cinders, what they used.
No, it was clay. It was
It was
regular
dirt.
clay.
It was
down there.
regular dirt then.
Yeah, it was regular clay. But what happened was after it started drying up, which you couldn't see nothing. Everything was clouds.
Oh, yeah.
No
They-
wonder
they
you won so
stopped
many
it.
races. They didn't know what the hell you were.
I think when Cherry Park shut down, that's when the Plainville started.
Cherry Park, yeah.
Yeah, in Avon, when Cherry
In
Park
Avon.
kind of shut down, everything highlighted over to Joe's, they called it what, the Flying Ranch or so? Before they had Plainville Stadium.
No, it was,
Wasn't that-
oh yeah, there was
that's
another
a
name before.
Flying Ranch.
Yeah, Flying Ranch.
Yeah.
That was the name of that before it was Plainville Stadium.
When they, after this stage, and they started racing cars again, and they got to be asphalt, I'm not really sure. Did they call them novice cars, or were they late model cars?
Novice cars.
No, they called them
No,
now.
they still, well, they had the non-Ford, they had the Fords, flathead Fords. Okay, that's when I was racing the flathead Fords. Then went to flathead Fords to the Chevys, then they went to the V8s and everything. They went up the line with it.
Then
Every
they,
year they would go up
The
the
novices
They call
come
them
out
cut-downs,
afterwards.
too.
Now they, huh?
Cut downs too, right?
Yeah, they cut
They
down,
weren't
they had the
full
cut
coops,
downs and
yeah.
everything, yeah.
They did have a sportsman class there. too.
They had a sportsman's class, well, they had a couple of classes, sportsman, but then they still had the modified though. The modified was the bigger guys.
Originally, when it started, it was non-Fords and modifieds.
Non-Fords, yeah.
And the
Well,
big deal
non-Fords
back
were
then was Tattersaw. They had
Non-Ford
them
were
go
up
out
at
to
Riverside,
United.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tattersaw ran
On Tuesday nights at
four
Riverside.
tracks. I think he ran
Tuesday
New
nights at
York.
Riverside.
Riverside was,
Yeah, and then it was.
and he had
Friday-
Plainville
it
and
was
he had
Friday
West
nights
Haven.
at Plainville. Yeah.
So he ran like a circuit there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Eastern,
yeah.
He ran Eastern
But it was
States.
all United, his club.
His club.
And then after that, as time progressed, then the novices came in because they were losing cars. People couldn't afford it. So then they got into a cheaper thing. And then
Please tune in next week for the conclusion of our roundtable discussion here at the Plainville Historic Center. It's really been just a lot of fun to come here, and I'll tell you, the exhibits are absolutely gorgeous. And we look forward to finishing this discussion next week on Racing Action Today. Special thanks to the Racing Action Today crew, Bill Majak, Dwayne Cody, and Lisa Backus. And also a special thank you to Nutmeg TV for all their support and all the great things they do.